Yo! I used to rotate so much during F2L. I rotated to look for pieces. I rotated multiple times to solve a pair. Basically, I just rotated for fun. It was horrible. Felix Zendex would slap me right in the face if he would have seen that. It was only when I started to get conscious about when and how to rotate that my times went down so much. Excessive rotating during F2L is a common mistake you see with a lot of cubers. And you need to fix this as soon as possible, because it's usually the cause of bad habits. And you might be wondering right now,
but what are these bad habits? And how do I fix them?
Well, that's exactly why I made this video. I will share with you 6 awesome rules for rotating during F2L. That will give you a clear idea about why, when and how to rotate, so that after this video you can start to fix all the bad habits you might potentially have and start to live a better, more peaceful life as a cuber. Anyways, let's start off with the first rule, which is basically the foundation of all rules. You need to know when to rotate. The first step of rotating less is making sure you solve your pairs optimal. And a big part of that is not rotating when you don't need to rotate. And there's actually a trick to quickly check if a pair needs a rotation or not. It's called edge orientation. Well, the trick is not called edge orientation, but that's what we will look at. I'll show you how it works. So we need to look for the edge of an F2L case we want to solve. For example, if we want to solve this F2L pair, we will look at this edge right here. If the side color of that edge matches the color on the side, so blue here, or the opposite side, which would be green right here, this edge is oriented. And you can solve this pair using just R, U or L moves, essentially without rotations. So this one matches, so we can solve it using only R and U moves. Just like that. So once again, if you want to solve the blue-orange pair, we want to look at the edge. Does it match the side? No, it doesn't. It also doesn't match the green side, so this edge is not oriented, which means we either have to do F moves or do a rotation. Now, I don't want you to worry about edge orientation constantly during your solves, because it will hinder your look ahead and you'll waste a lot of time doing that. Only advanced cubers really do that. What you probably want to do instead is use this info to analyze how you currently solve your F2L pairs, to check for any mistakes you might make. You can best do this while doing slow/casual solves. For example, if you catch yourself rotating twice for one pair, take a moment to figure out how you could have solved that pair without any rotations at all, since the edge of that pair was oriented in the first place. So yeah, never do 2 rotations to solve one pair. There are some exceptions, but try to avoid it. And after a lot of practice looking at edge orientation, you will automatically avoid solutions with unnecessary rotations. And you will also get more confident when you do need to rotate. If you want to know more about edge orientation, I'll probably make a video really soon entirely about that topic. But for now, I will leave some links in the description, so check them out. Okay, so now that you know when you should rotate, let's talk about when you shouldn't. Never rotate to look for pieces. I can't stress enough how important this rule is. Just it's a nasty bad habit that we've probably all had at some point, or still have. And it makes you look like a fool, a cubing fool. Now, it may not be that horrible, but I hope you get my point. Make sure that every rotation you do is purposeful. Now, if you're solving your cube and you don't really know what to do next, just pause and look for the next F2L pair in the position you're currently holding your cube. If you do find your next F2L pair and you need to rotate, it's fine, do it, but only after you spot your F2L pair. Now, this way of solving may take longer initially, but it will definitely help you in the long run by training your look ahead and avoiding unnecessary rotations. However, it is likely that the reason you rotate to look for pieces can be prevented by applying the next rule, which is make look ahead easier. The reason you want to rotate in the first place is because you need to look for pieces. So the better you can keep track of pieces, the less tempting it will be to rotate. And you can do this in a variety of ways. First of all, you need to get rid of the habit of always solving into the front slots. It is even so that it is better to solve into the back slots first. So for example, if you can easily solve 2 pairs, solve the one in the back first. But also, if you can predict the pair during inspection, try to solve it into the back first. Because the more solved slots you're facing, the less pieces you will be able to track, the harder look ahead will be, thus the more tempting rotating will be. That's quite a nice scheme, isn't it? Like boop, 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 boop. Anyways, but obviously don't go overboard on this one. If solving into the back first doesn't make sense, just don't do it. But if you can, you might as well do it first. What I like to do to practice solving in all slots without rotating is by going to CS timer and select either the 2gen RU subset or the LU. Now you might need to browse a bit to find them, but if you do find them, do the scrambles, then solve the cross, and basically now you have two unsolved pairs with all edges oriented. And as you learned before, this means that you should be able to solve the remaining two pairs without any rotations. This is a really useful practice drill to learn how to solve into the back slots without rotating. Now make sure you practice both sides, like the right side and the left side. To summarize this rule, the more comfortable you are at solving into different slots, and if you solve them in the right order, the less tempted you will be to rotate during F2L. But however, if you do rotate, rotate to the right side. And I don't mean to rotate to the right side like doing this all the time. I mean rotating to the side that makes sense, the logical side. I probably should have reworded this rule. Rotating can actually help the flow of your solves by preventing you to face solved pairs. So if you need to rotate while solving a pair, make sure to rotate to the side that makes sense, away from the solved pairs. I'll give a few examples of this. So let's say we just entered this pair right here. Now the next thing you see are these two. It is a simple tree mover. But anyways, you don't want to do this. Because right now you will face two solved slots. And look ahead here is going to be really difficult, like I don't really know what to do next. However, if you rotate to the other side and insert it here, now you're facing two free slots. And I have a really quick overview of what I'm going to do next. Another example of this is if you want to solve these two right here and you have this pair solved, what you could do is just pair them up like this and insert them to this side. But now you have the two slots you need to solve on the left side. So you might prefer to just rotate to the other side so you have the two right slots free. Because if you're right hand dominant, it's really tempting to rotate when everything is on the left side. I mean, if you're really good at switching between lefty and righty moves, you can just turn either way. But if you're right hand dominant, just make sure that the free slots are on the right side. However, there are cases where it's best to avoid any rotations whatsoever. And that's when we come to the last rule. Avoid rotations with algorithms. Some F2L cases have solutions that prevent you from having to do a rotation where you normally would have done one. I'll show you a few. Now the first and the most basic way to solve pairs without any rotations is just using F moves. As you can see right here, this edge is not oriented, so we cannot solve it using R, U or L moves. But anyways, we don't need to do a rotation in this case, because we can just use F moves. It's essentially doing just the same thing as this, but just using F moves. Now you can use this insert using F moves while making pairs. For example, for these two, you can just do something like this, which saves you a rotation. But you have special algs to do these inserts that will help to save you a rotation as well. For example, if you have this pair right here into the back right slot, we can either just do a rotation and then insert, or we can use this fancy alg. Another cool trick is this tree mover, but from the back, like this. It's something Felix did in his 3 points something solve. I don't know what the time was, but it was a sub 4. And if you can do it in a sub 4 solve, it must be pretty good. Another cool trick I want to share with you is if you have this pair, you don't actually need to rotate. However, if you're more advanced, you'll notice that we have a dot case right now, and we could prevent this by doing a sledgehammer right here. But doing this sledgehammer from this side requires a rotation, which sometimes you don't want to do, and instead you can do this really fancy trick. It is actually really finger trickable and it looks super cool. And then for example, this flip pair, I have an entire video about flip pairs, so if you want to check that out. Normally you would have to rotate for this. You would for example just take it out, rotate and insert it. However, we can solve it like this as well, which saves you rotation and it's really fast as well. And you have some fancy algorithms using wide R moves as well. For this case, pretty cool. Once again, I'm not going to go in detail here. However, if you do want me to make a video with algs and tricks to save rotations, let me know in the comments. But you need to be careful with these tricks for two reasons. The first reason is that usually these algorithms solve your pair in the front right slot. And as you know from earlier in this video, you kind of want to avoid facing solved pairs. So sometimes solving this case by rotating away from the front right slot makes more sense to do. That's why I mostly use these tricks to either solve pairs into the back, or when it's my last pair where rotating doesn't make sense either way. or for edge orientation or something like that. And another reason to avoid these tricks is that sometimes they can be kind of awkward and hinder your look ahead even more. Because as soon as you start to use F, M or wide arm moves during your F2L, you are increasing risk and look ahead will be more difficult. And with that being said, I do have a bonus rule for you. That's right, can we have some drum roll? Realize that rotating isn't that bad. One advantage of CFOP is that you can be extremely flexible in the order and way you solve your F2L pairs. And if you're going to be too critical about every rotation you make, you will lose valuable time. Rotating 2 or 3 times during F2L is often perfectly fine. However, if you can prevent rotations, do so. You don't want to be the guy who's constantly checking edge orientation to prevent every rotation there is to prevent. Because then you probably should just learn ZZ or RU. 2 other methods where you never need to rotate. Generally speaking, you need to look ahead for the next pair as fast as you can during a solve and solve that pair the best way you can. If it's best to rotate for that pair, it's fine, go ahead. But just make sure that if you do so, you rotate to the most logical side so you keep the flow of your solve. However, if you do have the choice between solving 2 pairs, usually you just want to solve the pair that doesn't require a rotation. Unless the one with a rotation is like a 3 mover. A 3 mover. It's not a 3 mover, it's a 3 mover. Am I saying it right? I don't want you guys to bully my English again, so just ignore this part, okay? Anyways, I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, you would make me really happy by liking and subscribing. Really, thank you so much. And if you are a real fan, you can always share this with all your cubing friends. If you have any friends. So I guess I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.